Hi, welcome to another episode of MYD Global. I'm your host, Leanne Hackman-Carty. When a hurricane hits, oftentimes homes are destroyed. Whether it's the roof, water gets in through the doors or the garage door, or windows are broken. But there's a company out of North Carolina that has been around since the late 1960s, Deltec Homes. In today's episode, I'm speaking with President Steve Linton about the types of homes they have been building in order to ensure that their customers have the most hurricane-resistant home possible. They look at the shape, including a round design, a panoramic view, where windows are secure. They look at specific types of building materials, site design, and other engineering standards that they put into the design of their homes. He also talks about what existing homeowners can do to help mitigate their risks, whether they build new or they have an existing home. So stay tuned as I talk to Steve about hurricane-resistant housing. Hi, Steve. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Leanne. Thanks for having me.
Well, before we get started on our topic today, can you just tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. So again, my name is Steve Linton, and I'm the president of Deltec Homes and also the chief steward of its mission. And my background is really twofold, as a structural engineer and also as a teacher. So, I really enjoy leading a company that is an industry leader in hurricane design, but it also is helping to teach people how to build and design homes that are more hurricane resistant.
So, Steve, tell me a little bit about Deltec Homes, when it was founded, why, just a little bit about it.
Sure. So Deltec Homes began in 1968. And in our history, we have built over 5,000 homes in all 50 states of the U.S., but also in 30 countries around the world. So we really are an international company. And I always like to start when I introduce Deltec with our purpose, which is ultimately to change the way the world builds. And we do that by creating these panoramic homes. So they're circular in shape, and they're intentionally designed and crafted to stand strong to hurricanes, really like no other home. And, in addition to that, the Deltec design really does three things very well. The first is hurricane resistance, as we're here to talk about today, but also we have a high level of focus on sustainability and really having a positive effect on our planet through the work that we do. And also, the Deltec design does an amazing job of capturing views. There's really nothing quite like sitting inside of a Deltec and experiencing nature. So those are sort of the three main things that we focus on with our designs. And the final thing I would say, sort of in terms of introducing the company, is in some sense, we're a hybrid. So we are a prefab manufacturer. We actually build the structure of our homes here in North Carolina, but we're also a design company. And so we combine those two things, and we deliver efficiency and precision from the prefabrication of our homes' structures. And we also offer the flexibility and the custom design that comes along with the building blocks from our system and putting them together in new and creative ways.
So when you talk about hurricane design, being more resilient to strong winds, to water, tell me about some of the elements in your design that would address some of these risks.
Yeah, that's a great question, Leanne, and we love talking about this. It's, to start with, our philosophy, our design and building philosophy, is what we call the Deltec way. And so simply put, we think of that as building the home the right way the first time. And it's about craftsmanship. The Deltec way is about engineering expertise. And it's really about each home having uncompromising structural integrity. And so what we're looking to do is build homes that aren't just set up to resist today's storms, but really to resist those of future generations. So just kind of from a big picture standpoint, that's how we look at it. But as we dig into the details, there's really three things that make a Deltec home stand strong to extreme weather. The first, and probably the most obvious, is the shape. And so because our homes are circular, or we call them panoramic, it's actually a super aerodynamic shape. And so the wind's flowing around the home rather than trying to push through it. And because of that, the amount of pressure that's acting on our homes is about 30% less than what you'd find in a comparable, a typical shaped structure. So right off the bat, we're reducing the force on the home by that 30%, which is a huge advantage. The second piece is really the material excellence. And so we're using materials in our homes that are twice as strong as what you'd find in a typical home. So for example, with our diamond grade lumber, as we call it, each board is actually tested for strength so that we know it meets our requirements. And then the third piece is really precision engineering. And that's where we take those stronger materials and we put them together in that panoramic shape and we design them to work together as a system. So I think one of the things that's most unique about the Deltec is it's really designed from the ground up to be a hurricane resistant home. It's not just bolting on additional pieces here and there. And so the analogy that we often give is often a wheel. You think about a wheel, very lightweight, simple structure, but extremely strong. And our structure works much in the same way. So wind can hit it from any direction, and the structure is able to absorb that force and distribute it throughout the whole house, making it very strong and able to resist extreme forces. The concept of precision engineering also sort of speaks to how everything is tied together and connected together. We focus a lot on the connections.
Yeah.
And because we're building in a factory, all of our components are built in a very controlled environment. So that sort of rounds out the idea of precision engineering. So shape, materials, precision engineering, and really the track record of Deltec Homes is what demonstrates our commitment to that excellence. We have a 99.9% survival rate for all hurricanes in our 50+ year history that, like I said, demonstrates what we have to offer. And I think about we've withstood name the storm, whether it's Charlie or Dorian or Hugo or Katrina. There are so many out there, but for us it's kind of less about remembering the names of those storms and thinking about what our homeowners have done with their homes. For example, we had a couple just last year that went through Dorian. Their home went through Dorian, and they were on a barrier island to the Abaco chain there, which is where Dorian first made landfall. And they were able to set up their home as a medical clinic after the clinic on the island was destroyed by the hurricane. And so it's stories like that I think really give us the passion to continue doing what we do. And at the end of the day, ultimately, storm after storm, year after year, the Deltec homes are the ones that are left standing after these storms come through.
That's fantastic. I know, for so many communities, we're increasingly putting people in harm's way, and we have to learn to live with our environment. And some of the old designs, they just don't work. They're not as resilient as they need to be. I love the design, and I'll, put a website link so people can find more information about the designs and how they look. But I'm thinking for someone who may not be able to yet get in the market for a new home, what would you recommend? Are there some simple tips that people can do with their existing home in order to make it more resilient?
Definitely. Yeah, and I like to talk about what I call the 3 W's. So wind, water, and working out a plan. And those things apply really to new homes, but especially to existing homes. And so if we think about wind and what it might do to an existing home, I always start with the windows and the doors. You don't want the hurricane to become inside the home, because then you're dealing with a hurricane inside and outside, and those things don't work well together. So for example, is your garage door rated for hurricane force winds? That's a common failure point. Windows and doors during a storm need to be covered. Simplest way is just with pre-cut plywood. Go ahead and have that ready ahead of time in your garage or wherever that you can store it, so that it's easy to put on. Again, because you don't want that glass to break and allow the hurricane inside the home.
Yeah.
I think the other wind strategy for existing homes would be, if it's an older home, look at the way the roof system is attached. Are there hurricane ties, or what's a metal clip basically that's tying the roof down to the walls? That's a great upgrade if it's something that hasn't been done to your home yet. So that's wind. Water, a lot of times is about just maintenance, right? Are the gutters working? Are the downspouts working? Is the land around your home sloping away from the house? Is the roof in good shape? During a hurricane, there's going to be a lot of water, and we're trying to find ways to mitigate that from getting inside the structure. So just good maintenance is often the best strategy there to resist the water side.
Yeah.
And then the third one, working out a plan, is really about, what's your evacuation plan? What's your backup plan? And having a jump bag or a set of supplies ready to go. And that, that's for anybody, whether you're in a new home or an existing home. But I often send people to FEMA has a great app now that you can download on your smartphone. It's got great resources. There's also ready.gov. Again, that's a U.S. government website, but there's tons of great resources I would encourage people to check out. Be prepared so that when the storm comes, you know what you're doing.
That's great. So before we wrap up, is there anything else you wanted to mention that I didn't ask about?
Probably two things that I would add to the conversation. The first, sort of back to thinking about the hurricane resistance of our homes and why we want to live near the water anyway. And so I think one of the understated values of a Deltec home is that it's not just circular for structural reasons. Certainly it's way stronger because of the shape, but that panoramic view allows us to enjoy the natural world, which is why we're on the coastline in the first place. So, we're able to enjoy nature at its fullest rather than feeling like we're in a bunker and isolated from nature. So it's really that combination of enjoying nature, but also being able to withstand it when necessary. And I think the last point that I always come back to is, if we're really going to design and build for extreme weather, we have to take the long view. And there's a proverb that I heard last year when I was in the Bahamas. It always was very powerful to me, and it says, "We sit in the shade of a tree that we did not plant, and we plant a tree in whose shade we will not sit." And that concept is really at the core of everything that we do and who we are at Deltec. It's what we call a legacy home, building for a future generation or for a future storm, as I mentioned earlier. And so I think really by taking that long view together, we can all change the way the world builds, one home at a time.
And that's an awesome way to wrap up. I love that proverb. And, you truly are, when people are at the hardest part of their life, when they're most stressed, having the security of knowing you're going to be safe and you're not going to lose your entire home, I think that's something that's pretty special that you can give to people. So, Steve, thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. Wishing you all the best, and hope to see more of your homes across not only the U.S., but outside as well in the near future. So thanks again.
Excellent. Thank you, Leanne.